Okay, so the first thing we're going to do today is pull the main fuse out. Since we're going to be playing with electrical wiring. So let's pull off the side panel. And this is your main fuse, just pull it right out and that's it. Alright, now we're going to start to remove the fairing cover. And to do that we've got 2 bolts. One here and one down here. And they're a T27 Torx screw. Okay, now one thing to remember on this is the top bolt. There's a top bolt is going to be the long bolt. This is a much shorter bolt. You can see there definitely is a difference in size. And we'll go on the other side and do the exact same thing. Okay, the next step is to remove these 3 top screws right here in the front. And mine's a little different only because I have the mirrors. This is an add-on accessory. So we'll take the 3 bolts out. 2 short bolts on the side. And then we'll get the middle bolt out. But we're actually going to stick that back in right now. I don't want the fairing falling forward on me. Okay, now let's get the fairing off, but first thing we're going to do is remove the windshield. Just pull that up and set that off to the side. And we're going to take out the top bolt of the fairing. Kind of lift up. Alright, there's the light clip in here, so we take that out. And that's it. And set the fairing off to the side. Now the next thing we got to do is disconnect the cables for the hand controls and that. Now this one right here is the throttle by wire connection. This is right here. These 2 clips are the right hand side and that's the left hand side. So let's get those apart. Now this one here is kind of a booger. There's a slot underneath here that if you take a little screwdriver up into it, you can pop it out. It's kind of a pain to get to, and you just push it up in there and then pull it out. Now the other 2 are fairly simple. They're just a clip that you push down and take out. There we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the seat because we're going to remove the gas tank so we can get to everything. So I got a screw back here. I got my own homemade screw here. It's nice and long. Put a flat washer and a lock washer on it. And it's a lot easier to get out than with the screw. So then we just lift up the seat, pull it back. We got our seat off. Okay, now there's just a couple bolts to taking the tank off. You got your cables down here that connect up into the tank. These are air tubes for the gas. There's a bolt here, another bolt over here on the same side. Those come out. And up at the front of the machine, we got this bolt right here that we're going to take out. That one there takes the tank actually off. And I've got the cool wing deflectors on there, so they'll come off also. Alright, let's get these bolts out of here. I'm going to take this one off. This plastic cover is really kind of a pain. It's kind of restricting getting the socket in there. Alright, this little guy's a 3/8 inch bolt. Back to our other two bolts, this one's a 1/2 inch. Alright, let's get that bolt out of there. Actually an Allen bolt. And I'm going to go take the one off on the other side also. So, alright, let's get these cables and air hoses out of here and get this tank off. We pull up this air hose here. There's another one here. This cable here, which comes off. And I got another one here which is wire tied. Alright, so I had one wire tied, so we'll snip that guy. Pull him off. That's all there is. Oh, one thing I forgot, the gas can. The gas line. It's got a quick release on it. Alright, this thing should just push up and pull down just like that. And you get a little bit of gas out of there, but you lift up on that and then pull the gas line out. Alright, now we should be ready to get the gas can off. I guess it's always good to show your mistakes, or what you don't think of. Just carefully get this out of here and set it off to the side. Now we're going to remove this plastic cover here. It's held on by this screw right here. It's a T25. And then we're going to take off these side lights with these two nuts here. And those are 1/2 inch. So let's remove these guys. I'm going to go around the other side and take that off, the other nut bolt out of there on the plastic cover. Alright, now we'll get that plastic cover off. There are two connectors in there. This one over here, I'm not really sure what it does, because there's nothing, no buttons up here. But there's a button underneath, you push that down, and it pops out. This one's got it on the side. Okay, so we got that disconnected then. Alright, let's get this side off. These are acorn nuts. They're a 1/2 inch. Now this will take the light assembly off. And there's a little clip right here. That takes that out. And now we got to take the other piece off, these other two bolts. Kind of a funny bolt. Alright, and then we remove front cover here. About ready to slide the fairing forward. Now the other side, when you take these two bolts off, that's where the steering tensioner is. So just to let you know that, pull that cable out of there. That should be it. Okay, now we're ready to get to working on the bars. And to do that, I'm going to lift this thing up a little bit and pull it forward, or backward I mean, toward me, however you want to say it. And it should stay right there while we work on it. Now we got to start cutting the wire ties on the bars and loosen up the handlebars and get them out of there. Alright, let's get cutting some of these wire ties that are on the bars. Okay, now that those are done, we're going to get the hand controllers and the clutch and brake handles off the bars. Okay, before we take off the brake and clutch, I did put some padding over my side pods there, so that when I drop them down they won't hurt or scratch it. So let's go back in there and start taking these off. They're T27 Torx bit on them. Alright, I'm just going to put these back in like that to hold the bolts. Carefully bring them down to the side. And let's go over and get the other one. Alright, this side's a little different. It's only because I got this drink holder on there. It's got Allen bolts, and they're actually metric. These are a little tricky to take off because they do have a spacer in between them also. Alrighty. Drop that guy down, take this guy out. Okay, let's get the covers off the switches here and get these disconnected. These you don't have to pull the bolts all the way out. Just get the back cover off of it. This comes off and this front plate comes off. Now there's a little clip at the top and you just release that and they'll pull right off. Okay, on this side you got to take off your mileage adjuster. To do that you just kind of lift up on it and pull it off the handlebar that way. It'll come right off. It's pretty strong, so chances are you're not going to break it. Alright, pull the cover off. Take a little screwdriver and we're going to just click open that little piece, and that's it. Okay, now it's time to get the bars off. Now before we remove the bars, I'm going to take these grips off, because I don't need those. And now we just got 4 bolts that we got to undo and the bars will come off. So let's get those bolts out. Alright, bolts are out. Take the cover off. And that's it. Okay, so I'm putting on the Khrome Werks 2+2. And that's this bar right here. And the reason it's a 2+2, it's 2 inches higher and it's 2 inches back. So putting the 2 bars together, they're pretty much about the same width. However, height-wise, you can see they're quite a bit of difference in height. So let's get that throttle by wire out of here. And this should just pull right out. And we've got to feed the cable through. While we pull on it. Alright, that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is insert the pull string, and we're going to actually do it by air. So I've got my compressor here with a blowgun and the cord's ready to go up, and if you watch it, it's going to come out that end right there. So we just shoot air in here, and that's it. Pulls it right through. Nice, quick, and easy. Okay, now we're going to work the wires back through the handlebars, and we'll take our rope here. This is just a nylon pull string. It's used a lot in electrical work. And we're going to attach it back here onto the cord with some electrical tape. Get a good strong tape on there. And we're actually going to keep working the tape up over the connectors. So that they don't bind, trying to keep them in the center as much as possible. Work on having the string going right off the edge of this one right here. And that's going to do it. Now we're going to slowly feed this in, pushing it through, pulling on it with the pull string. It's at the first bend here. There we go. You just got to kind of work it through. Try and feed it as you can. Okay, and we got it coming out of the bottom now. Nice grip on the cable. This is only going to go in one way. There's a notch here and a notch here and a notch here. And on the throttle by wire, there's a notch here and then two notches there. So as we pull this thing through, we'll then line it up with those notches, push it in, and that's it, we're in. So now what we'll do is get all that electrical tape off of here. Always the fun job, but pretty simple to do. Alright, so this is not really rocket science. We're gonna get the handlebars put back in, at least to the point where I can get on, put a seat on the bike, and then get a feel to where I want them eventually. So bring the wire out that way. Put the clamp on it. Make sure it's kind of centered in the clamp there. Clamp on it. Get some screws going in it, or some bolts. These things are going to be tightened down to, the service manual says 16 to 20 foot-pounds, if you're wondering. Okay, so now I've got them tight enough where I can get a good feel for it here. And the bars look like they're in center pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is run the wire back through the opening here. Alright, and I've got that through now to where it's going to clip onto the spot the wire was at. And now let's put a seat on it and get a feel for how the bars sit. Okay, so I put the fairing back on, and I did install its bolts on the sides, on both sides, so it stays where it's going to. Now I'm going to get on this thing, sit down on the seat and just kind of feel for where the bars should be. Can't go too much forward with them, and I don't want to have them way down low. Which, oh, by the way, here's the cigarette lighter. Didn't even know I had one of those. How about that? Anyway, so probably right about here is pretty good from a turning standpoint. My arms aren't really forward much anymore. They're more back. Feels a little bit more relaxed. So it'll probably be better once I get the grips on it too. So I'm kind of liking this position here, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten down one of these bolts here. Now, it'd be better if you had a ball end, and I don't, unfortunately, because if you had a ball end, Allen, you could get in there. I think that's about where I want it. So I'm good to go. Alright, so the next thing is to take the fairing bolts out. And I had a little bit of an issue getting the fairing on because of the steering damper there, so just kind of might want to watch that. We'll lift it back off so we can get to the bolts. Grab our torque wrench. That's that one. And that one. Okay. And one more. Alrighty. Now let's work on getting your hand controls back on. Okay, I'm just going to start filming putting the hand controls on. I'll probably just use my speed up option. Putting new hand grips too on the bike, so I don't like the ones that I had before. You got to make sure you position this one to where you want it to be. Well, you got to kind of play with the cables a little bit. They're not quite where you want them. Alright, let's see if I can get me a little slack on this wire here. Okay, I was able to get some slack on that wire. I had to disconnect the connector and pull it out and just kind of reroute it underneath, so we'll be able to wire tie that. And this one, like the same thing. It's tight, no lie. But since it's fairing mounted, it's going to just move with it. So next thing is to get enough slack for the brake cable. And that might be a little difficult. It took a little finagling, but I got more clutch cable out now, so I can work on getting this attached to the bars. I've got my drink holder on this one, so and I think I got the left side adjusted where I wanted to. Let's get the right side going here. And both of these levers assemblies have to be pushed into the switches because there's actually a switch for each one. There's a brake switch and the clutch switch so that it knows that the clutch is being pulled. It's a Torx T27, the one on the switches are T25s. I just have to adjust my levers where I want them to be. I'll hop on the bike. Have a seat. where they're at, so we'll tighten them down. Okay, so let's give a little update on what's going on. I want to put my Dynajet tuner on, so I've attached that to the bar, and I'm going to run the wire through the backbone here, and then into the plug on the left side. The wiring's pretty tight to make it work. The left side is very tight. You know, if you try and lift the fairing there, I really need to cut the wire tie that's below the bottom one down here. And then the other side, though, seemed to be okay. It seemed to have enough slack everywhere that I can do it, but the left side definitely was really tight. I had to pull the brake line and the clutch line out also, as it was very tight. So you can do it, but it did require a little bit of finessing. So I'm going to run that wire for the tuner now through the backbone and then over to the ECM port on the left side. And one more thing while I'm thinking about it. In one of the first few videos I did, we took off the wiring, which was this connector here and these two connectors here, and those went to the switches. Since I didn't run the switch wires through the handlebars, which would have required taking those connectors off of the wires, I just ran it like it was stock and just kept it there, so I just put those back on. And then the only one that I had to do anything with was this one right here, which this is the throttle by wire connector. And if you're wondering what this is a heated grips connector, and there's one on the other side over here also. That's what those are for. So that's kind of a little update on some wire pulling there. Now, in order to run this wire, make it clean, you just take this cover off this thing, and it's easy to do with, just take like a smaller screwdriver in here and just push on the plastic pieces, and they'll kind of just pop out of there. And you have your whole wiring harness there now. Ooh, how about that? I found a bee. Yikes, a yellow jacket. Neat. Next thing then is to run the wire. I'm going to kind of work backward on that. The ECM plug is over here on the left side, and it's the bottom gray one. So I plug it in there, and now I want to route this cable so that it doesn't pinch or bind or anything. And I think maybe the best thing to do is to loosen this side panel. There's a couple of bolts there, and then thread the wire through it, and then I'll bring it up this channel and then up through and into the handlebars. So I loosened up this panel here and just remove these two bolts, and I'm just going to put that back in, ran the wire through here, and put a little blue Loctite on there because I noticed that it had it before. So just get this guy tightened back up. Wasn't very tight when I took it off, so we'll just tighten it down a little bit. There is, you know, this is plastic, so I would say you don't want to do too much. Okay, and that's all there was to doing that. Now this is the connector right down here for the ECU, so I've got play, and we'll work the cable up through the channel now. Alright, the wire is just going to run through the channel, so the biggest thing is just making sure it's underneath or over wherever it needs to go so it can work with the other cable that we got for the electrical. And then, so it'll be a matter of if I plug it in And now it's a matter of wire tying it up to the other cable. And then it'll come out the bottom, and then we'll just close it up. Alright, now let's get the cowling back in place. The fairing, I mean. We're going to put our front cover on, and I cleaned it up. I gave it a little detailing there, so get the bugs off of it. There's 2 bolts on this side we got to put in. Now the service manual says to torque these 120 to 180 inch-pounds, and I think what I'll do is leave this side a little bit loose, and then we'll go over and get the other side on, and then I'll come back and torque those down. Alright, this side will be a little tricky just because there's a couple extra pieces. This is the fairing bracket here, and so we got to line 3 holes up. Oh. Well, that was easy. Clean this up a little bit. And you can see I did pull my light connector through the hole. And tighten this guy up a little bit. We'll put the torque wrench on it. Alright, I'll go around and torque the other side. Alright, first thing we got to do is get this connector in. For some reason this one's a little deformed, I don't know, but I ended up able to get it back in. And we're going to put this on. We got 2 acorn nuts to hold these on. Now, these are 1/2 inch. The other one was 9/16. Alright, so I gotta figure it out. There we go. The wire was kind of in the way a little bit there. Alright, so we'll tighten these down. And then we'll torque them to spec. Again, same spec as the other bolts, 120 to 180. And as that, we'll go over and do the other side. Alright, let's get this side on. Again, we gotta do the connector here. That one was a little bit easier. The other one I had, it's kind of deformed. I don't know why it was, but it was. So we'll get our acorn nuts back on here. And we'll torque them to spec. Alright, that's it for our side lights. Alright, I know this sounds a little crazy, but I kind of modified this panel a little bit here. I trimmed off this part because these brake lines are really tight in the clutch line, or the brake line here and the clutch line there, so I think this will give me a little more room. So let's put the clips back in and try and get this guy on again. Oh yeah, that's much better. Alright, now that's done. Now the next thing to do is to get that wire run through the tray there, and then put the cover back on the tray. Alright, so the wire channel is back in, and I've got enough clearance both left and right for that cord that runs my tuner. So it's time now to put the gas tank back on and get it back together. Alright, we'll get the tank put back on it. Now I think because I have the tank lift kit on here, I'm going to put the bolt in this side. That'll lift it up and then I can get the other side in. Alright. I know in my one video that I did with these cool wings, people said it was hard to see what I was actually doing. So I'm taking this wing here and going to put it across here and then put the bolt in it. So and I'll try and do it this way so you can see. I just got to lift the tank up a little bit and start threading it in. Okay, it is threaded, but unfortunately I got to turn it down. I'll take the blanket off there. Tighten her up. Again, what those things do is they just push air down over the engine, and it makes it cools, tries to cool a little bit better. So hopefully you saw that better this time. We'll go do the other side. Hey, one thing I forgot to do, I forgot to put some thread lock on those bolts. So I took it out and put some thread lock on it. So now they're on. Alright, now we gotta connect all the wires back up, run our hoses down, breather hoses. And connect put our connectors back. Black on black, gray on gray. Alright, now that we got our hoses in place, we're going to put our, I think this is the deluxe option or something they call it. Alright, and the only thing left to do for the tank is put this plastic cover piece back on it. And to do that, we got to take that bolt out of there. Alright, now we got that guy tightened up. Next thing we do is put on the seat and we'll test everything and make sure it's all working. Alright, we got the seat on, so let's just throw our side cover back on. Alright, that's it for that. And let's get the fairing on. Okay, all that's left to do is put the fairing cover on and the windshield. So we'll get the headlight connected here. Alright. And we're going to hold the fairing on with a long screw here while we put the side screws in. Put the bolts back in the fairing here. Long one on top, short one on the bottom. And they torque spec, they say at 20 to 30 inch-pounds. The windshield screws are 25 to 30, so I set the torque wrench to 25 inch-pounds. Okay. Okay. And we'll now just go over and do the other side. Alright, we're almost done. I'll put the windshield back in. This is a little bit tricky. There's some rubber bumpers that go on the screws. Okay, now we've got those on. Oh, head upside down. Just thread the screws into the holes. Alright, one thing left and we're all done. And the last part of the whole thing is to put this back on. It just slides right on like that. And that completes it. Now it's time for a test ride. Okay, so let's get a little review of the handlebars. Just to let you know, it took me about 3 hours and 15 minutes to actually do it, but you have to remember there was filming involved there, so I would say you could probably cut it down to a couple hours. It's not really that hard to do. As far as the rise and the 2+2, the two higher and the 2 back, I definitely noticed a difference in the steering of it. It was a lot easier. However, I did do the Super Shocks 14.5 inch on the rear end, which gave a little bit of a lift also, which that did help as far as the steering goes. But from where the bars are now to where the bars are today, I was out on the road for about 2.5 hours, and I didn't get any fatigue in the neck or area, which is kind of nice. It kind of felt down a little bit. I felt very comfortable with the bars. The other bars, I think, put me more in a position like this, which pulled me forward. I liked being able to come back with the bars. So all in all, I'd say it was a pretty good switch. Other than the cables being pretty tight. The one over here on the clutch side, the electrical switches and that cable's pretty tight, and I think I said before I'd probably want to clip my wire ties before I would lift this off and pull it back, just because of how tight it is. The clutch cable itself is a little bit tight. The brake side over here, all these cables were pretty good. The throttle by wire had more than enough cable. I don't know. That was the part that was all wound up in the by where the handlebars connect. So I'm not really sure why they gave you that much cable. It would have been nice maybe to have a few more inches, but then I know Harley wants to sell you extender cables if that was the case. But all in all, I thought it was a pretty good deal. The Khrome Werks 2+2, these are the narrow bars. Part number I believe is 300-519. I think I paid like $132 for it, so I thought it was a pretty good deal for the money, and I'm pretty happy with the results that I got out of it. Take care, see you on the next video.